purpose for being here, which is to hear from another, I do apologise for that, another inspirational woman speaker. She's a disability campaigner and blogger, and she has campaigned through her blog, Diary of a Benefit Scrounger, which some of you, I hope, have seen. And through that blog, she's helped to make a difference and given disabled people in the country a louder voice about what the government is doing right now. So I'd really like you to welcome to the platform Sue Marsh, disability campaigner and blogger.
Hello, thanks for sticking around in the cold. I don't think I'm going to cheer you up very much. For 4 years now, I've been warning of a social crisis unfolding in our country that puts us all to shame. Since this government of elite fools took power and revealed their so-called welfare reform bill, I've analysed and reported, researched and lobbied. I've tried to inform the public, explain to the media and engage with those with power to change things. At first we could only warn of what might happen, but I learnt that we live in a country that won't listen to warnings. Time and again, the media or politicians told me that until people suffered, until lives were lost, nothing could be done. Isn't that a remarkable way to run a so-called democracy? Well, now it's 2014, and if it's suffering they wanted, it's everywhere now for all to see. We warned that ESA was close to meltdown. We warned that ATOS couldn't cope with the sheer volume of assessments the government expected of them. Every single report or committee or inquiry into work capability assessments found them unfit for purpose. And today, sure enough, last July the government had to bring in auditors and open up the contract to more of their corporate cronies. Assessments are taking up to a year. Over 10,000 people died within 3 months of their assessments. Over 250,000 decisions found to be wrong in law. Every one a ruined life. But don't be fooled, replacing ATOS won't help, because it's Ian Duncan Smith and the DWP who control who qualifies or not. It's the DWP who make the decisions and the DWP who wrote the rules. Bring in Serco or Capita or G4S, nothing will change. Daily now, coroners are reporting this reform terror as cause of deaths. The BMA, the Royal College of Nursing, they both demand that work capability assessments are withdrawn immediately. Appeal tribunals warn that they're swamped to crisis point and beyond. We warn that scrapping the Independent Living Fund with nothing to replace it could push sick and disabled people back into institutions. We warned that it was almost certainly illegal. And today, the courts have ruled that we were right. Have the government acknowledged their failure and acted? No, they go on as before. We warned that slashing social care packages up and down the country by up to 40%, closing day centres and respite care would have devastating consequences. People don't suddenly become able to wash or dress themselves because this government of Bullingdon bullies say they should. We warned that scrapping care packages would only push people into needing more help, not less. We warned that the NHS would have to pick up the pieces where the care system failed. And yet again we were right. Elderly and disabled people are being denied the care they need up and down the country, trapped in their own homes, hidden away, left in their own filth, hungry and isolated in the UK in 2014. We warned that the government had gone ahead against the wishes of the entire sick and disabled community. But this wasn't enough chaos, not enough pain. Without consultation, the government decided to also slash the qualifying distance for disability living allowance mobility support by an eye-watering 60%. But this time we were wrong. We predicted 1 in 5 people would lose support. According to the first figures just released, a horrific 3 in 5 are now being refused the new benefit. And chaos surrounds this failure too. ATOS, yet again, rewarded most of the contracts for the new disability benefit, promised over 700 doctors to carry out the new assessments. In the end, they managed to find less than 100 willing to do the job. In 8 months, just a handful of people have received decisions, stuck in limbo indefinitely. The majority of decisions have been deferred, leaving people up and down the country uncertain and confused. Do they apply for PIP? DLA? Nobody, including the DWP, seems to know. We warned that the work programme was designed to fail too. We warned that it wasn't designed to help people with illnesses or disabilities, that they had very different needs to job seekers. But again we were wrong. It was so much worse than we predicted. Do you know how many ESA claimants found and kept work through the work programme? Less than 1%. 1%. More found work all by themselves. Regularly we hear stories of people parked while huge corporations cherry-pick the easiest to help. No phone calls, no appointments. This is the scrap heap the government really meant. Not the benefit scrap heap, but the scrap heap of their own failures. But what astonishes me, in fact terrifies me, is that despite the warnings, despite the daily proof of this devastation all around us, we still fail to act. Still the Daily Mail write articles about scroungers and skivers, vilifying those least able to defend themselves, ensuring the government propaganda goes unchallenged. Still we're fed a daily diet of shows like Benefit Street with no balance, no compassion. They don't report any of the failures I've listed. Rather, they airbrush them away from the public, allowing this government to be as ruthless as they like. No cruelty too great, no incompetence too disastrous. It sometimes seems to me that they could literally do anything and no one would care, no one would stop them. Still the government lie, and their lies are ignored. Food banks now feed 500,000 people and rising, but arrogant, out-of-touch ministers claim it's simply because people want free food and don't know how to budget. 4 years of warnings, 4 years of being right, time and time and time again, 4 years of chaos and disaster. How can that be possible in the UK in 2014? When we promised to protect the most vulnerable, when did we decide that sick and disabled people weren't included? How can a developed, supposedly compassionate nation look away as we allow the people who need us most to be thrown on that scrap heap? How did we come to this? They aren't faceless numbers, they're lives. They're our mothers, our brothers, our daughters and our sons. Disease or disability can, I'm afraid, strike anyone at any time. Any one of us could wake up in the morning with a headache only to find it's a brain tumour. That skiing accident or rugby scrum could leave any one of us paralysed in the blink of an eye. Yes, Mr. Duncan Smith, Mr. Clegg, Mr. Cameron, even you. Sickness and disability doesn't discriminate on wealth or education. It doesn't only affect the weak or the feckless. Cancer, heart failure, strokes, Alzheimer's, they have no idea whether or not you're rich or poor, what politics you believe in. We all used to care. We all used to support the idea that a compassionate state supported those less able to help themselves. Not out of lazy charity. We supported the vulnerable because we understood very well that it could be any one of us at any time. We supported others in case, God forbid, the worst happened and one day we needed that support ourselves. When you leave here today, I beg you to work twice as hard, plead twice as passionately, explain twice as urgently. We're outnumbered and outspent. We don't have Rupert Murdoch in our pockets to do our dirty work. But we have passion, we have honesty, and we have the truth. We have each other, and every day thousands join together online and in their communities to challenge these lies. In the end, we will win. In the end, the public will see the horror of this time clearly. But it's up to us here today, the people who act and the people who care, how long that takes. Every day that passes sees more lives ruined, more dignity stripped away, more hope lost. Just down the road, Lib Dems are trying to convince us all, voters in the country, that thanks to them, things haven't been so bad. But I watched them file into those lobbies time and time and time again and vote with David Cameron. I watched them support every single one of these changes. We must never let the country forget.